What's going on, everybody? I appreciate anybody that made it in early. Sorry, I'm still adjusting things in the background. We just got connected here. I have Arkheim Ra on tonight. We've been trying to set up this interview for a little while. At least I have. Um, yeah, I'm excited to get to sit down and talk to him today. How are you doing today, Arkheim?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I can't complain. Would you like me to call you Arkheim, or how would you like
Yeah,
to be
that's
addressed?
fine.
Ark?
That's
Okay.
totally fine. Arkheim's good.
Okay, perfect. Well, today what I kind of wanted to go over, if you were up for it, was just kind of a Arkeem 101, and just so any of my viewers that don't really know much about you can kind of get their foot in the water about it.
Sure. So yeah, I'm Arkheim Ra. I am a star seed. I guess is what you would call it. Basically, I'm ancient. Existed for a really long time, and I got intercepted through the Talent and Gifted program for like secret space program, military stuff, basically being used by the military as like a psychic spy, psychic assassin, time soldier. I ended up
That
as
was that was the tag program you were talking about.
well. That was just a way of finding. It's just a way. It's just a way that they find children for Solar Warden and Joint Navy Space Fleet. Um, I think Montauk was maybe different. I think I got funneled into Solar Warden through the school program and not that wasn't how Project Phoenix 2 found me. But I'm not 100% clear on that, to be perfectly honest with you. You know, I was a child and the memories are all pretty uh, blurred together, and it's hard to tell what was where and what led to what sometimes. But suffice to say, I know for 100% with 100% certainty that I was taken out of school during the process of the talented and gifted program. Like they were telling my parents that I was part of this talented and gifted program, and I was being told and given screen memories too of like being part of a normal class. And where this jar of worms was really opened is like the next year I wasn't in the talented and gifted program, so this was second grade. When I was in it, third grade I wasn't in it anymore, and I was asking the teacher about it, and there were some students who basically said that I wasn't in it. And for years, I like they're like, "Why do you think you were in the talented gifted program? You weren't in it with us." And for years, for my whole life, mostly, I kind of thought that they were just giving me a hard time or bullying me or something like that. But now I realize that like, no, they were for real. I really wasn't there. It was screen memories, and I was being taken to some sort of government facility that was clandestine, probably underground. Appleton, Wisconsin, is probably where I was being taken, and basically they were doing experiments on me that involved hooking up electric electrodes to me, to my like toes and to my fingers and to different extremities of my body, including my genitals and stuff like that. And one of the things that they did to me that I actually remember, a lot of it I don't really remember, but it was like there was a TV and it would beep and it would change colors, and basically when it changed colors, it would beep every time, and they're telling me to say what color it was, but I couldn't see the TV. So I think it was like the TV was in the next room or something like that. All I know is I couldn't see it. I think there might have
So
been like a
almost
sheet
like
between. I
a
think actually, now that I remember it, like this is the first time I've ever said this. Now that I'm really thinking of it, I think they just said like it was in the same room, but there was like a sheet between me and the TV, so I couldn't see it, and I could hear like because you know there can be a sheet. They put sheets between
yeah,
hospital
yeah.
beds. That's what it was, and I couldn't see the TV. So, um, anyway, they
So
would
was it
shock
like a
me.
remote? Was it like a remote viewing exercise, or what?
Yes,
Okay, that's what I was
yeah, they
trying to
wanted me
figure
to
out.
see the colors without seeing it, and so I, as a child, I was really confused because I was like, how can I see the TV without seeing it? And the
Mhm.
guy, I remember the guy said to me, "We know what you are, you fucking monster. You're gonna be able to say what you see on the TV." Is basically what he said to me. Like I remember he said, "We know what you are, you monster." Suggesting he probably knows that I'm like part of an ET lineage connected to ancient Egypt, ancient Atlantis, and stuff like that. Um, But yeah, they would shock me when I wouldn't if I wouldn't say anything or guessed wrong. They would shock me with their electrodes. And it got to the point where I could see the colors and I was guessing it right. And it basically made it go faster and faster until it was like beep. I could say it beep blue, beep orange, beep purple, and I was like correct. And they also did the exercise with the Zener cards, where I had to get basically they started with being able to guess one card at a time, and then they worked their way up to the point where I could say every single they could have an entire deck of Zener cards, and I could say from front to back which cards were in it. And they basically just got reactivated my dormant abilities that they knew that I had that had been used in other projects. Because, like I said, I believe this was so important.
So was that all in Wisconsin? And was the place in Wisconsin, was it a physical location out there, like a base?
I believe so. I mean, it gets confusing because there are portals places, so it could have been easily brought.
That's why I was wondering if it was.
However,
that's why I was wondering if it was physically Wisconsin or if you got maybe put somewhere else.
I believe it was underneath Appleton, Wisconsin, where a lot of this happened. I believe that Appleton, Wisconsin, is a MyLab town. Actually, we've discovered towns like Arlington, Appleton, basically towns with ton at the end of them, will house a lot of assets for like Black Ops programs, and basically they have cloning centers underneath of the assets, and they can sell to either human groups or ET groups their consciousness and their DNA, so that they can use them for either for whatever. Sometimes it's sexual slavery, sometimes it's military purposes. Unfortunately for me, a lot of the times Satanists like to use me in satanic rituals, like where they sacrifice me or like drink my blood and stuff like that, because of my lineage, both human, like my literal DNA lineage, part of the lineage of Christ, part of the Christ bloodline, and then so they like to invert that, do sacrifices, things like that. It's the Merovingian bloodline, the French royalty. Pretty sure I'm saying this history correctly. But basically, yeah. So they have it's like a center underneath there, like a giant underground military base. And there's even been weird stuff, like there was a bridge, and there's a entrance underneath the bridge that had like a fence, and you could see though there was like a doorway. And I have some friends that told me that because we'd go on hikes down there by the river, and they said one day the door was open, the gate was open, and there were these two guys in like military uniforms standing there with guns. So there's been stuff like evidence of this underground base that me and certain people have found. There used to be in the 90s and probably maybe even to the early 2000s, there would be flying saucers and UFOs around the water treatment facility all the time. And that's because the water treatment facility is an entrance to the underground base. And basically ET would show up there to make deals to get consciousness. Or it's not, like I said, it's not always ET, but basically that's why spaceships would show up there. That's why people would see spaceships around the water treatment facility, is because they were showing up there to make deals to buy consciousness. It's basically a hub to buy consciousness, to buy DNA from assets. So basically, it's a slavery operation. And all the people that live in Appleton, Wisconsin, basically they're monitored through their phones. They call them tags, right? In the underground facility, they monitor everybody through their phones and through their tablets and and basically all their internet-connected devices. And they steer their lives like the Truman Show. Try to make it so that they stay in the town, so that they don't leave, and basically just try to kind of make it like a lot of the people Appleton, Wisconsin is actually the drunkest city in the United States. And if it's not Appleton, then it's somewhere like Fond du Lac or something like that, because it's in the same vicinity. It's always changing a little bit, but it's known to be the drunkest city in the United States. And the reason why is because all of these people have post-traumatic stress disorder. They have trauma, and they're burying their trauma by drinking heavily. And they don't even realize it because they don't remember it, but that's what's going on. And so this is a very huge thing. This is very real. I'm not making this shit up. There's more and more evidence will come out. The show Inside Job pretty much put it right in people's faces. They had a whole episode called Appleton, Wisconsin. That was a season finale. That was basically kind of showing you in your faces that assets choose to live there because they want some normalcy. You have to understand, Jacob and to your viewers as well, that in these programs, we don't have any sort of sense of normalcy in our lives. We are constantly engaging in espionage and warfare, running. We're constantly running. We're constantly being targeted. We can't make connections to people because any connection that you make with another person could be potentially used as blackmail against you, as sabotage against you. So it's a very lonely, very sad life. And so to have this opportunity,
and they want that to be your new normal. That's what they're training you for, is to be that uncomfortable all the time, and it's not strange to you.
well, what I'm getting at is with Appleton and living in Appleton. My memory on this isn't 100% clear, but I think they kind of illustrated it with this Netflix cartoon Inside Job, where I think a lot of us that live there are assets who, it to some degree, actually signed a contract, agreed to live there, agreed to have these basically fake, quote unquote, normal lives, because we actually, yeah, like we actually have always been jealous of normal people. We are born in these programs, basically, like in our other lives, because like, to explain to your viewers as well, so there's time displacement and cloning. Basically, they clone us, so they create, and then they put your consciousness. So it's me, all right? They just put me in a different body. That's all. They have to take it needs an operating system, right? It's got the computer in there, but in order to turn it on, you got to put in the electricity. Does that make any sense?
Well,
And the electricity being your consciousness.
I was going to ask you this. I was going to interrupt you and ask you what kind of ETs they were, because I've always thought that about Greys, and that they were more of a vessel, and they kind of just operate with whatever commands that they were given, and that's why I could see how those are a downloadable, I don't know, a device or a being that you can enter with the consciousness. Like, I'm like, that would make a lot more sense if they could download consciousness into an actual.
Also, yeah, I also believe that sometimes they use something I don't think anyone's really talked about is they can be used, and it's not always them. It depends, but sometimes the people that are outside of the computer simulation that we're in make adjustments to it, change things, and do stuff. And sometimes they appear here as Greys, I think. Not always, but I do think that's part of it. We are in a computer simulation. This is a computer program. This is basically like none of this is real, but it is real. You know, the Matrix explains it all pretty well, and we've all watched the Matrix, right?
No, and I was trying to explain to somebody what it would be like if we were living in a simulation, because they were like, "How do you explain God?" I was like, "Oh, God's easy to explain in even in the Matrix or simulated reality. It's just all it has to be is somebody that knows about the programming and is either doing something to the programming or correcting a mistake."
Mm-hmm.
Like, they could either be a hacker or they could be more maleficent and being able to change the program. I was like, but yeah, there's a pretty good chance that we're living in a simulated reality.
Yeah, a lot of people ask too, like, okay, well, we're in a computer program. Why? What's up with the computer program? And the thing that I hear the most, which I don't really agree with, actually, the thing that I hear the most is that the real version of Earth had some sort of catastrophe and we're on pods waiting it out because it's going to take forever for the Earth to heal. I don't believe that, because I know, like, I think that's actually a really silly hypothesis. I think that what's going on is extremely advanced ET made us as a probability machine, because the universe ebbs and flows and nothing is eternal. But all life wants to maintain its existence and never go extinct and continue forever. But that is not the law of the universe. The law of the universe is even the most ancient empires eventually fall and eventually just crumble to dust, and eventually they go to the wind, kind of. This is what happens, and there's ebbs and flows. And I believe that some advanced ET civilizations came together and created the most advanced computer system you could possibly fathom to test out different probabilities, different outcomes, to ensure that their empire or their control system never falls apart, and that certain events don't ever delete them or get rid of them because they don't want to lose their foothold. I'm claiming that as fact. No, that's just my theory.
I mean, it's a fair theory. I've always, I mean, if it is okay, let me ask you this to kind of dig into how you really think about it. If where do you place Mandela effects in this? Is it a correction? Is it something that we missed prior? Like, I've heard a lot of different things when it comes to simulation theory and applying Mandela effects to them.
It's so Some of that's changes that we made at Montauk. For instance, like the Nelson Mandela dying in prison and stuff, and there's changes that have been made to the timeline for certain dominoes fall in certain ways as certain things happen. Things that seem unrelated completely are related sometimes. And so we would make certain events happen. So certain of other events would happen. And I believe that whether it was Project Phoenix 2 or some other sort of time travel operation, I just know that that event was edited. And same thing with just a lot of things. There's just edits to the timeline, and then we experience that. And there's both the Atom Project. If people want to understand this phenomenon, both the Atom Project and also the show I was talking about, Inside Job, the very episode, Appleton, Wisconsin, explains the phenomenon pretty well. Of timelines, they change the timeline, but then remnants will exist, and then they got to get rid of the remnants and destroy them. Look, a good example would be like Tertaria. Like, I think that was another timeline. Like, and they had to get rid of it from our timeline and erase it from our time, but it still was part of our timeline. But they erased it, so it's not part of our timeline, but it is part of our timeline. Time travel, timeline editing, different realities gets confusing as hell, even for somebody who's experienced it, who's walked through gateways to other realities and stuff. Not even going to tell you it's not confusing. It is. It gets confusing.
It's my favorite. It's my favorite topic to talk about. The majority of people I have on here are time travelers, and well, and I've actually talked to a lot of Montauk participants, like Joseph Powell. You probably know Rocco. I've talked to Peter Moon. I've had on here a couple times to do interviews about his books, and so I would ask, and I've talked to James Rink a few times too. I I almost would want to ask, like, what was your role in? Well, first off, for anybody that doesn't know, there's almost like two categories of people that were on Montauk. There was like the OGs, your Al Bielix and your Preston Nichols and your older guys, and then there's and Duncan Cameron, and then there's like the 2.0 group, and that's some of the people that I've been talking to recently is they call themselves Montauk 2.0. Would you fall into that category or?
Yeah, I would say so. Um, I think it's had a lot of different phases, more than just two. But yeah, I was part of what you would call probably 2.0. Trained by, so Susan Long would have been there before me. Joseph Powell was there before me. Rocco was there before me. Um, so I was a little later, but also pretty early, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, I know.
Uh,
I've talked to Susan. Susan's very nice. She's very intuitive.
yeah,
And
she was.
I've talked to Penny, and she said she had involvement there, but she didn't know about it. Other people were telling her about it,
Yeah,
and
she got continued to be. She always assumed that she was part of the most earliest iterations because that's all she had memory of. But apparently, there are others who remember from later on in the project. I don't have any particular information as far as her being part of Project Phoenix 2, what's colloquially known as the Montauk Project. But I do know that, yeah, she's a huge, obviously, proponent to all of this, and she, part of my awakening and everything was through her. And she's actually technically my biological mother, so that's another really interesting part of this. And uh, then like Jacob Emmerman, who was a U-boat captain for the Nazis in World War II. He's my father. So and he
Emery. Why
actually
does that last name sound familiar? Who? Emerit, you said?
Emmerman.
Oh, Emmerman. Okay.
Yep, and it was behind Project Ibis, and well, he was the commander for Project Ibis. So the one giving orders, maybe not the one totally in charge of it, but the one that was giving orders to everybody and basically in charge of the project in a lot of aspects. And he summoned me into this reality, and as well as Jacob Wickberg and I think other people as well in different ways. Or John Wickberg, excuse me. He we were manifested in basically like black magic rituals, like put into human bodies. I'm not sure exactly how it worked. There's this famous celebrity witch lady that was a part of it, who's still around now. I can't remember her name. I wish I could remember her name, but um, yeah, do you know what I'm talking about? She's like this crazy witch lady that hangs out with celebrities and stuff. Not Maria Abrovich, the other one.
There's so many people tied into spirit cooking that I'm not really sure which one, unless she is a celebrity as well.
Okay, I think I found her. Oh, sorry, just a second. What's her name? It's not sharing her name. Okay, this Nick Jones guy's talking about her, but he's not saying her name yet. I found her really fast. Uh, it bothers me when I wanna expose these people. So because like this lady is just so obviously um what is her name? Yeah, okay, Michelle. What's her name? Michelle something. Michelle Lammy. Michelle Lammy. Yes, Michelle Lammy. And now I'm gonna show you. I'll go do a little screen share to show you. So this woman, Michelle Lammy, was part of. If you'll allow me to share my
Oh
screen.
yeah. Feel free to. If I'm just waiting for it to pop up.
Yep. All right. So this woman right here was part of. She's knows. Wow, look at how evil she looks.
Yeah.
She's part of the Third Reich, black magic stuff. Um, she was part of manifesting dark demonic entities or even positive entities, really, to be inverted and used for evil. And she was part of all those rituals, and she was part of the ritual, I believe, that brought me into this reality, and basically every other Montauk person that was brought into the human body that was connected to ancient Egypt through Project Ibis, this lady was a part of that.
So what was their intention of bringing all these people forward?
Basically, just repeating history, but also like using our power. Like the thing that's funny about these people to me is like Michael Aquino. You know about him, right?
Yes, I
Say,
do.
to
I know
people.
about him through Douglas Dietrich.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so what's funny about these people is they act like they're really powerful, but they like have to like manifest us as children and basically abuse us in order to have any power over us because how weak they are, really, if you think about it. And it's just kind
Yeah,
of funny.
they would need your energy to do it.
Yeah, they had to do, basically it's all trickery. Like all their power is like tricks, and I don't view it as like real power. I don't know. But yeah, that Michelle Lammy is a part of it, and then I'll show you Jacob Emmerman too. I think it's important. Because yeah, this guy. I mean, as far as like, uh, well, wait, no, it's not. It's Carl Emmerman. I'm fucking up. It's not
So, but
Jacob.
when you
My
said that he was a
my
U-boat,
name was Jacob Emmerman. I was his son, and that was my name, and that was like a brain fart. But yeah, I'll
because
show
I
you.
was wondering when you said that he was a U-boat captain, I was wondering if he was if his father would have been friend or the guy that created or helped drill some of the underground bases, Philip Schneider. I
Hmm.
went because his dad was also a Nazi U-boat captain, and that's
Oh,
how he got.
really?
Yeah, and that's how he got connected into some of this stuff. And I was like, oh, I wonder if they were acquaintances.
So this is him. Uh, and I was born in Munich, München, as we called it. We call it over there. But yeah, I was born in Munich in the 50s, 1952 or 53, I think. Um, so this is like an artificial fake life made through time travel and cloning and stuff that I'm living in. But this is him. Yeah, I even had the same copied that mustache for a while that he has there. I wore that same kind of mustache for a while. But
Listen,
yeah,
the picture with the hat,
yeah,
you guys have some facial the one up right above it. He's
yeah.
got some facial features that really fit
Oh yeah,
yours.
well, yeah. He look actually also
It's
really
the
looks like.
eyes more than anything.
He also really looks like my dad, which is
Oh, does
weird.
he?
And then you also can see the similarities between him and John Wartburg a lot. Like they also like the chin and mouth and nose and. But yeah, he looks a lot like my father. I mean, I showed this to my family, and they're like not my real father, who I believe is actually my nephew. It's all confusing and weird, right? But yeah, this is the biological father I have in this real life. It's like almost like he could be a clone of this guy. I don't know, but my father's a really kind, really great person, and I don't think he's connected to this asshole in any way. He was a real piece of shit, real person worker. This guy, Carl Emmerman.
So, okay. So what was your role then at Montauk? Well, actually, let me take it back further than that. Once you were manifested, what was your initial role that they used you in that you would have memory of? Was it the
I don't have
was
any memory of Project Ibis. I learned about all of it through other people's testimony because I don't
Oh,
remember it
okay.
at all. So I'll be
That's
100%
where
real with
so
that.
that's where it started
Actually, I
was
remember
Ibis?
very little of it. I remember being in the room in like a crib cage thing, and Michael Aquino would be like he looked like a bird person, and he was like the owl man. And there's very vague, small things I remember that come through from listening to other people's testimony, but that's basically all I remember. But suffice to say, they probably made me go out and fight in my actual bird person form because I'm actually usually supposed to be like a 13, 14 tall bird person, and also fight as a human. And basically, they just sent us throughout time and space to fight certain battles and do certain shit. We just did what we were told to do. If you really want to learn about it, John Lipberg's book, "The Man with the Periwinkle Eyes," Volume One, extensively covers Project Ibis and what was going on there. So if you want to learn about it, I highly recommend it. It's available for free on archive.org.
Yeah, I'll check it out. So okay. So Ibis was probably the first one. You just don't have memories of that one?
Yeah, I don't have memories of it really.
And then what
Uh,
order did it come to after that? Were you a child when you were involved in Montauk, or were you at a different age? Like, how
they
does?
got me when I was a kid, and I believe I was brought in through a van. I believe that they physically got me from somehow, and whether they grabbed me through a portal or whatever, I don't know, but because I remember being in the processing room, where they basically threw all the kids in there naked and just made them wait in there for like 11 hours or whatever it was in the cold, just to like terrify us basically when we got there. Um, and I remember that, and yeah, Preston really took a liking to me. I remember being a child there. A lot of the memories I have of Montauk are of being a child. A lot of them are very evil, very fucked up memories. Like the worst ones are definitely so far the first. Like some of the worst ones have been Montauk. Like
Well, and I got taken off of YouTube because because everybody was asking me about people and bringing up their memories on Montauk, and I was like, well, I knew how the original guys used to do it. I was like, it usually had a lot of R word involved, and they were using like sexual sexual deeds to bring forth these memories, these repressed memories, and they were almost putting themselves through torture. And like when I talked to Peter about it, he seemed like offended that Duncan Cameron wasn't part of the group anymore. And I was just like, I felt kind of like Duncan Cameron was like, I can't do this anymore. And Duncan Cameron was like worn out from the
the
whole experience.
deprogramming of sexual deprogramming that Preston
Yeah,
and them would do. That's nothing more than further predatory behavior by predators. That's because
yeah. And they
Preston
used
was a
that as a
yeah, he
ruse
was
to
a
do it.
predator, and the fact that Peter Moon is out here talking about Montauk when he wasn't a part of it, he was not fucking there. The only connection that he had to it was through propping up a guy who was a fucking pedophile. Like that guy doesn't. As far as I'm concerned, that guy doesn't have shit to say about the Montauk Project. How fucking dare he even fucking go on the internet and fucking talk about it? Sure, when Preston was alive, he helped Preston write his books because Preston didn't know how to write a book. That's all the fucking guy contributed to the Montauk Project. That's it. Other than that, that guy can go. I don't have anything good to say about Peter Moon. Like the guy he worked with, like the shit he did like is unimaginable. Like if people knew it, they'd be sick to their stomachs. They'd fucking vomit. Like you know, dogs, man. You got dogs involved with this stuff, like children. Like I don't want people can use their imaginations. I literally can't say this stuff on the internet. It'll get your channel banned. Like
No, I know.
And it was filmed. It was filmed, and it was sold, and it was distributed, and it's probably still on the dark web. Or anytime people are
And
like, "Where's the
I've
proof? Where's
heard
the proof?"
people
Like,
get put in dog cages and fed dog food in these
mm-hmm.
situations. Like I've heard horror stories,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's
The
hard
cages are
for an
stacked on top
outsider.
of each other, so if you're on the bottom cage, you're gonna get peed on, and pooped on.
Yeah.
It's
Well, and when
that
I was
bad.
hearing about this, I was like, well, from an outsider's perspective, all they hear about is the time travel and the aliens, and they're like, oh, that sounds cool. And it's just like, no, this
Yeah, they
was,
don't understand. People don't
yeah,
understand.
this was a torture experiment that went on where, I mean, I feel like we have that now with Army where they try to break you down mentally and rebuild you as a
Oh yeah,
soldier, but it's
that's
a
100%.
less, yeah, but it's a
Yeah,
way
but
less level.
it's still trauma-based mind control. They treat you like a piece of meat, put you through the meat grinder, and turn you into a fucking object. That's what the military does to anybody that's a part of it. That's what they did to me, and that's what they do to people who sign up and join willingly. There's no difference.
Chris said, if only humans knew what really happened. Yeah, no, I agree. And he also put a comment that you were talking about how cycles and stuff were going through, and he said universal law is entropy. And I was like, yeah, I totally agree. All this stuff is meant to, it's waves, like we were talking about. It's supposed to have its peaks, but the valleys are just as deep, and you know they're coming. And humans are just, gosh, I want to say a blip in time, and I kind of support Graham Hancock's work of the idea that we're a civilization with amnesia. And
Oh yeah, 100%.
it's
Yeah,
so naive to think that we're the most advanced version of beings on this planet ever.
yeah.
And that's why
There's
we
a
just,
reason why the mainstream establishment pushes back towards that man so hard.
yeah,
Yeah, he's uncovering a lot of stuff in a very pragmatic, educated, factual manner, and they don't like that at all.
right. No, I was super happy when he brought the geologist on with him, Carlson. I can't remember his name, but
Yeah,
he's the one that helped explain most of the floods that nobody knew about. And I've, you brought up Tartaria. Well, you talked about Tartarian.
hmm
Um, I do think something happened. I don't know what it is, but there is like fragments of it still around that, oh, these people used to call the people in the West Tartars, and that just meant thief, or it meant like those are the oldest renderances of that word. And it kind of threw me off. And I was like, well, it seems like there's a base for something here, but I can't really dig into it too deep because there's nothing to dig into anymore. It's like
there's just
find
been
evidence
a
to it.
timeline. It's just basically just like the timeline had to be edited in certain ways, where certain technologies didn't exist because it didn't benefit the ruling oligarchy, the ruling class. So that's the reason why you see. That's the reason why to get anybody anywhere in this country, you pretty much have to get in your car if you want to get there quickly. Anyway, um, and that's the reason why oil infrastructure, gas infrastructure is so largely ingrained in every aspect of our global economy, is because it's 100% connected to siphoning energy out of the earth because oil comes from the earth and it's basically the blood of the earth. So it's like this black magic ritual. People don't even think about it. Like they're siphoning energy out of you, both financially and literally. Like when you're driving, and it's just yeah. There was things could be different. Like we could have high speed trains and cars, sure, but like they you don't have to like to
Yeah.
build our whole society around them is really actually super silly and counterproductive. And I'm not an advocate for 15-minute cities, but it is like that's one thing
No,
that people always.
they've had mag trains in China for so long. We've talked about them having them out in the U.S. for years and years. It's like, why wouldn't you want a magnetic system that doesn't take anything besides turning the magnets on? Like it's
Yeah,
that simple.
yeah, they keep us really bogged down in this reality. In if people saw one of the reasons why they keep us hidden from the breakaway colonies, like the reason why they don't want us to know about human life on other planets or alien life on other planets, or even like some of the infrastructure that's underground, or even in other countries sometimes, is because they don't want us to see how good we could have it. Because then we would want that and we would try to get it and we probably would get it. They want to keep us in this mind control matrix system where artificial scarcity, chase the carrot, which is, of course, the dollar sign, and just be on this treadmill of debt and getting out of debt, trying to get out of debt, and that's what they're doing to everybody. The quality of life is going down and down and down, and
I think
they
people are waking up to it, though. I really do.
people are gonna get pissed, like with this thing, and like something that I can't believe, my jaw's on the floor, is they're trying to still make people pay their mortgages and pay their property taxes on the houses that burned down in the fucking fires in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
It's like, are you
And
fucking
over
kidding me?
60% of the people got dropped from their insurance when it happened.
Yeah, like that is absolutely unacceptable, and that is gonna cause fucking riots, dude. That's not gonna go. I don't think it's gonna go down the way they expect it to go down.
I
Like a
think
lot
the
of times,
U.S.
I
I
think
think
these
the U.S.
social. I think
Sorry, go
not to
ahead.
talk over you, but I think a
No,
lot
you're
of
good.
times
Go
these
ahead.
social engineers, because that's what they are. They're social engineers. They do certain things with certain expecting certain reactions, and they don't. I don't think they always understand how people are going to react. Like for instance, with what happened in 2020 and stuff like that, I don't think that they really always know how people are going to react, and that's still something that we have. We have to look at the situations that they're putting out there because problem reaction solution, right? Look at the situations like when you see some crazy weird terrorist attack that smells like MK Ultra or some weird shit that happens. Instead of being like, who did this? Who did they work for? Why? Those are valid questions, but I think it's more important to ask what outcome are they trying to create with this event? How do they expect people to respond to it? And then guess what you do then? You respond in a different way. You respond more like not emotionally, but like logically to this stuff because you got to realize like a lot of these events are literally being manufactured by psyops agencies. I've physically participated in it, working under Michael Aquino, like the son of Sam. You know about that, right? The murderer of the
Yeah.
son of Sam, the
Yeah.
serial killer. That was a government operation. What would you think if I told you that literal U.S. tax dollars went into that man, fucking going around and killing people?
I would say it makes a lot of sense,
They
especially
put
when
voices in his head with voice to skull technology and
I
shit.
looked at the same thing with O'Neill when he did his book on Charles Manson, and
Mhm.
everybody thought that Manson was just a crazy person. And it's like, no, the government made him crazy. He was
Yeah,
taking his family to Haight Ashbury, and they were supplying him with drugs, and they were cleaning up all the girls that were in the family. Like this has been perpetuated for so long, and this is why I was talking about with the
he
money
was
is
part. It was part of the Montauk Project. I don't remember it, but I was talking to John Whipper. I bring him up a lot, I guess. Well, he is, a friend and a brother to me and stuff. Literally, biologically, and everything. But he actually told me recently because I was trying to figure something out, and I asked him like, "Do you remember this guy? Like, I think this was all Montauk." And he's like, "I actually don't remember that, but I remember Charles Manson was a Montauk thing." I was
when they
like,
said
"Huh."
Jolly West was involved in um, the handling of Manson. So it's like, oh, Jolly West was around. There were some projects he was in.
Yeah, it's getting to the point where you can put the pictures on the board and draw the lines and everything, and they're all starting to really connect. It looks kind of crazy, but it's all there. That's the thing. There's a lot of evidence that's coming out, and it's getting harder and harder for people to say that we're all crazy. You know what I mean? It's getting
Yeah,
harder for
no, I
people
do.
to throw
Where
us out.
where people are waking up the most is I think the U.S. government's trying to keep doing the same thing that they've been doing for so long, and they just don't know anything different. It's like our once our dollar got taken off of the gold standard, our money kind of became useless. And for them to sit there and shake us down for our debt when they're in debt to their goddamn eyeballs, eventually the US dollar is going to collapse. Everybody
Yeah,
knows it's
yeah.
just there on
That's funny.
false.
You want to hear something really funny that makes me think of? I've actually never talked about this on an interview before. It's kind of random, but made me think of it. Um, the when I was a kid, I went to Arizona to visit Phoenix, Arizona. Technically Glendale, basically the same thing, but to visit my uncle and my aunt, stay there for a week and stuff. Because they live far away. My mom wanted me to like bond with them a little bit, be closer to them. It was pretty cool. I had a good time. But on the way there, I was sat down next to the guy who sat next to me was a CIA agent. What a weird coincidence. He literally told me he was a CIA agent. And I remember telling him, because he's like, oh, Ronald Reagan's great and all this shit. I'm like, yeah, but he took us off the gold standard. Now our dollar's going to become useless. I told him that.
Right.
And I was like 11 or 12 or something like that. I was really young, maybe 13. I can't remember how old I was, but I was like just getting into high school or like in middle school or something like that. And I'm telling the CIA agent guy, like, Ronald Reagan sucks. But no, it's weird. I think that there's a reason why that guy was next to me. I think he was kind of monitoring me.
I'm sorry. You had a couple of questions coming in the chat. All right. Hi, Andre. It's nice seeing you. He said, well, Jacob, please tell Arkheim Ra I said hello and welcome to the best show on YouTube. I don't
Oh,
know if
thanks, bud.
I wouldn't call myself that. Go check out Arkheim's show. He's got a show. I got it. I
Yeah.
got the link in the description as well. So if anybody wants to see
Also,
where
I should mention too, I have a book, Time and Space Unlimited, by
yes.
Arkheim Ra. It's available on Amazon, and it's basically just my whole story. I'm basically like my testimony and putting just a lot of dots together too. Like there's some stuff in there that is information that really shines light on how real this is. I guess like the factual information, like even like the Disney and I talk a little bit about the Disney MK Ultra stuff and the
Don't
Nickelodeon
get me
MK
started
Ultra
on
stuff.
Monsters Inc. Yeah, Monsters Inc. is just a blueprint for what they're doing.
Well, not only that, like what I mean actually is like with the Disney stars like Britney Spears and stuff, that was all mind control programming, MK Ultra
Oh,
stuff.
so like teen celebrity, like children stars.
Yeah, they're yeah, like the Nickelodeon kids and stuff like that. So with Nickelodeon, and I talk about this in my book, the reason why their trophy is a Zeppelin is because in the other reality that like the more original, less altered reality, Zeppelins are more of a form of transport than airplanes and trains, and it's way different, totally different than here. And basically, like for instance, like Amanda Bynes, um, in the Zeppelin reality, she was a pioneer of comedy and entertainment from the vaudeville area of comedy. She did a lot of things that like, oh, a woman's not supposed to do that, but she made it okay and like, women aren't supposed to smoke cigarettes, women aren't supposed to do that, women are supposed to, but she was hilarious and she got away with it and paved the way for women in a very positive way where it was like she didn't even have to do anything like revolution. Well, it was revolutionary, but like she wasn't like an activist. She was just somebody trying to be funny, and she changed the world by doing
Even
that.
in this time, you can see glimpses of that because I was trying to. I think it was the Empire State Building. People didn't know what that deck was up on top of the Empire State
Yeah,
Building.
yeah, it was
Oh
for
yeah, that
the
was made for
the
Zeppelins.
dirigibles. Yeah, it was for Zeppelins. Yeah, and so yeah, in the original reality, a lot of those people, Drake Bell, famous musician, like think he might have written some of the songs that the Beatles actually use. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that one.
Gosh, and I hate to bring it back to Amanda Bynes, but she is still groundbreaking even in this time. It's like if you think about another child actor that was doing improv at
Hmm.
such a young age,
And she was coming
she
up with
was
all that, a lot of that stuff, and
yeah.
yeah, of
They said
course,
she was just a ball full of energy, and then her Preston Nichols was fucking Dan Snyder.
yeah, yeah, 100%. And I do believe that she's an asset for Black Ops projects too. But um, I do know that large she was a cash cow to them. And they made a lot of money off of her.
Oh yeah.
Not only through the surface level stuff, but they had clones of her and were using they're using her for sexual slavery and stuff like that too. And they do that to Britney Spears and they do that to a lot of different people.
Well, and there was always a big mystery of what happened to Britney Spears' sister because all of a sudden they pulled her show, and it was on Disney, and they pulled her show, and
And
she was pregnant,
yeah, and
and
Dan
all this
Snyder was
other
the one that got
stuff.
her pregnant.
That's the rumor. I've heard it. But and I thought it was so weird that she named her kid Britney Spears. But just other random side thought, I'm like, is that some kind of psychological thing? Are they just trying to make money on the name? Like, why would you name your child after your sister? I don't know.
That is kind of weird. Yeah, that is very odd. There's so much weird stuff going on with Britney. Like, I don't believe that's her on her Instagram. I don't believe that's really actually her. I think that's like an AI thing, and they're trying to humiliate her. I don't think that's actually her. Like, and I don't know what's going on with her, but I know they have like a lot of clones of her. They use her for sexual slavery. Um, she's been through the ringer. Britney has, and I know her from the programs. As far as Chiron, it's part of my testimony. I was used to create certain songs, some like famous songs. They used me ritualistically because of my bloodline or whatever. It was all very. It's like the Swedish cult called Ordo Templum Nephilim, They're connected. It's connected to like time travel and secret space programs. This planet Centurion 5, and yeah, the music is made all really ritualistically, and you can see it like they do Katy Perry and the Dark Horse video and all this stuff. They put all the symbolism, Ace of Base, and all these. There's all this Egyptian symbolism in it and stuff like that. And there's basically like satanic ritual abuse. It's same shit, different pile. Technically, it's a different religion. They worship Baal, not Satan.
Yeah.
But same shit, different Baal. Sacrificing children to Baal and stuff like that. So it's like just
Yeah,
like a really
if you look at some of the ancient gods or that were worshipped, it's like I think Easter Island had one that was very similar to Baal, but they were literally cut off from everybody else supposedly, and that's why it was so interesting that people from Egypt had basically the exact same god, and he was their creator god as well. And it's like I don't know, you see that bleed through all over from either past civilizations or just countries that would never really be able to access themselves or will access each other by the technology that we think we used to have. And it's just like, no, this shows you that there was advanced things that were traveling around. Like it wasn't that they were just stuck in one spot and everybody was isolated until 12,000
absolutely
years
not.
ago. It's
That
silly.
narrative at this point is moronic, and
Yeah.
anybody who believes that, I'm sorry, you're fucking stupid. Like you're
Yeah.
brainwashed. Like it's insulting to indigenous people. That's another thing. Like the narratives that they give about how like when we got here, native people were just like all living in like huts, and like they're all nomads. Like I mean, I know some of the Native American certain tribes, they were nomads. They traveled around, they had teepees and stuff. But there were stone structures and stuff like that when we got here. Some of them still standing in the Arizona desert that were built before white colonizers got here. So it's like there's just this whole narrative that like all indigenous people across the world were like stupid and were like didn't know anything. Meanwhile, it's actually the colonizers who didn't even have sewer systems, while the rest of the world, like, we were like literally like dumping, like the British were like dumping like their shit into the river that was their drinking water, while other cultures in different parts of the world had advanced water systems, plumbing systems, and sewer systems. So it's like this whole narrative that the white man went around the world and made the world advance is such horse shit. It's so
No,
stupid.
the white man tries to put Christianity in everything. And that's actually one of my theories of why that the Native American history was so suppressed. Because and this goes to my biblical belief of, I think that there was a war between people on Earth and people in space that had visited,
Oh yeah,
and
several times.
every
I think that
religion tries
happened.
to talk. Well, every religion tries to talk about who the winner was, and it's just like, well, a lot of Native American species or tribes used to talk about a being that came from underneath, and then when Christianity came around, they were always talking about above, and it was just like, why does Christianity associate everything down as hell or the devil or bad, and everything up above you is considered, heavenly
Good.
or good?
And now with what we know about Agartha, the inner Earth civilization, which is very real, and then space, it's like I don't know. Maybe they're just trying to make people afraid of the underworld, afraid of going down there. That could be part of it. Programming to make people afraid of something that's excuse me, something that's actually a good thing. Um, yeah, it's just a hypothesis. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, ooh, it sounds like you've been through quite the ringer of things. So
Oh yeah,
what do you do to stay on the positive side so that the negative side doesn't take you over? Because I've seen a lot of people that have been involved in these projects that are mentally broken. Like they don't want to talk to people anymore about it. They don't want to go over any
sure.
of the old
Well,
stuff. Like you seem a little more comfortable with it than others.
one thing that helps is having a good family. A lot of these people don't come from good families. I got lucky, and my family's fine. I wasn't like abused by my parents. Usually, like 9 out of 10 times, people in these programs. I don't know if it's 9 out of 10 times, but I would say it's like at least half the time. They're abused by their parents, and they have a really terrible upbringing, and they're sort of just programmed to self isolate because of just how they're raised and stuff. But I have a supportive family. My dad went through the MK Ultra stuff, and my family witnessed it, and it helps them understand what I'm going through. And also, what I'm going through helps them understand what my father was going through, because they're all really confused at the time, and they knew it was a little more complicated than just Kurt went crazy. I think they knew that there was something actually going on, but they also, he was crazy because of the voice to skull technology. They were telling him that, like, I'm Jesus and all this weird, like, he was trying to tell my mom, like, I'm Jehovah, I'm Jesus, and all this crazy shit. And of course everybody thought he was crazy. And my aunt even told me, his twin sister, she's like, yeah, he was saying all this stuff about aliens and like time travel and like all this crazy stuff, and he actually, like, it kind of made sense. And she's like, he was kind of blowing my mind. And then she's like, but then all of a sudden, like, I come over like a week later and he's talking about how he's Jesus or you're Jesus or whatever, all this weird shit. And she's just like, yeah, he kind of lost me. And what I think it was is he was getting his memories back. So they had to voice to skull him, put voices in his head, tell him all sorts of wild shit, muddy up his testimony, make him seem crazy. And unfortunately, with the voice to skull, I'm actually about to do a show on voice to skull technology. Like right after this, it's gonna be at 5 o'clock. I highly recommend people check it out on my channel. But basically, they use voice to skull technology to tell him, like, he got the Omega programming, basically, which is unalive programming. I almost said a word you're not allowed to say on YouTube.
I know. You're good.
Unalive programming, where basically you have to deactivate yourself, is a polite way of saying it,
Yeah.
because you're not useful.
Most people don't make it through Omega programming.
No, and
Like,
yeah, my father, we actually came to home to him. He had cut his neck, and he was bleeding out on the ground, and it's only by a miracle that he survived. And so I take this very seriously, because what it is these people are cowards. That's why they have to hide. That's why everything they do, they try to keep it a secret. They think they're clever. They think they're smart. They're not smart. They're stupid. They're sloppy. They do not do a good job. They're being exposed. They're cockroaches. The light's shining on them, and they're not gonna fucking scatter like the fucking bugs they are. We're gonna squash them. Like, they're not gonna get away with this shit. Like, they always depended on people not being able to wrap their little minds around, oh, what, you can beam voices into people's heads? Yeah, you fucking can. There's patents for it. They use it at airports to make. Why do you think you don't see birds at airports? They use voice. They literally, look this up. They use voice to skull to make it sound like there are birds chirping, and they do it at a frequency where birds hear it, but humans can't. So otherwise, we'd be all hearing birds chirping and going nuts at the airport. So they figured out a way to do it so the birds hear it, but people can't, and that keeps birds away from the airport, so the planes can take off. That's real technology, and what we're trying to tell you is they're using it on human beings to fucking torture them. Like, and they use it on usually people who are in secret space programs and stuff like that, to get them off the path, get them off of figuring out who they are, what's going on with them. Basically, a targeted individual, they're just trying to figure out who the fuck is following me and why. They usually don't know they're in the programs. Like, they don't know why they're being targeted. Like, it's a nightmare. It's some of the most evil shit ever, because the worst part is, like, people don't believe these people, that they're being targeted. Like, for instance, my father, now I tell people and they're like, wow, that makes sense. Kurt was like, wow. But at the time, everybody just thought Kurt was schizophrenic, he was crazy, he was hearing voices in his head, and he did that. Now we know that was a criminal act that occurred. That was attempted manslaughter. Whoever's behind that should be in prison. Like, someone did that. Like, there are people responsible for that. And I know they watch these shows and stuff. We're finding you, motherfuckers, and we're going to hold you responsible for what you do to people. Not just what you did, what you continue to do, people. You think you're safe behind your fucking computers and your microwave weapons and all your fucking armory and your shit. You're not safe, because the only thing that keeps you safe is hiding the information, hiding the truth, staying in the darkness. And you're not in the darkness anymore. The average person knows this shit is real, smells something weird is going on, smells something's afoul, and you people are going to be fucking exposed, and you're going to be held to the highest extent of the law. I promise you that.
Well, and the government's been gaslighting people for years when it comes to this technology. It's like we knew we had this when we were in Vietnam. We were using cloud seeding. We were using sound weapons. We used all of this stuff.
Not only that,
years
we
ago.
used Project Ibis had 14-foot tall lizard men fighting in the battles. Like, there's soldiers who probably remember this shit. Like, there was all sorts of fucking crazy weird UFOs and fucking all sorts of wild shit going on during Vietnam that people don't talk about. Same thing with World War II as well. There was all sorts of like weird stuff going on that just kind of got written out of our history books. But like, they still even talk about there's a name for them, the German UFOs, the German spaceships. That was a real fucking thing.
Yeah. Well, and I've always been convinced that that's what we found in the Kecksburg incident was because I love the mythology behind what the Nazis were up to when it comes to esoteric knowledge and what they
Mm-hmm.
were doing because I took a big huge deep dive into like World War II past stuff and like the Nazi Bell and stuff like that, and that tied me into Aleister Crowley, which tied me into L. Ron Hubbard, and I
It's
just went
crazy
down
how it's
this
all
fucking
connected,
rabbit
isn't it?
hole. Oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Elron's in the breakaway. He's out there. He's big
Well,
on V.
you were talking about remote viewing, and I always think it's interesting that Joseph McMoneagle, who was part of Project was it Project Stargate? That was the one that was ran by the CIA. It was a remote viewing project to find downed aircraft and stuff like that. And he was one of their best people. And what was happening is Scientology was actually setting up the CIA, and they were relaying all of their information back to the CIA. Like we just found this out recently because one of the lawyers that represented Scientology asked for that information, and that's how they found out about Joseph McMoneagle and Ingo Swann. They were both high up Scientologists as well as great remote viewers, and they said they learned that from Scientology, which the original idea behind Scientology was past life regression therapy. And that's
Mm.
basically what it was. They were using that tool to understand their past lives. And this is all L. Ron Hubbard is hanging out with Aleister Crowley and he's trying to summon stuff. And he's like, yeah, I think Aleister Crowley's an interesting guy. And it's just like, well, yeah, he's a lot more than an interesting guy. You've looked into him quite a bit. Like you guys have quite a bit of entanglement. And it
Yeah,
just,
this is
you
something
see it
I need
all
to
through the
look into a
levels.
lot more because I know that Scientology is literally connected to Project Phoenix too in the Montauk Project. They also had some connections to the Catholic Church. Basically, two separate organizations that work together on quite a few things.
Let me blow your
That
mind a little bit.
okay.
Who do you know that's an author that is a former Scientologist?
I mean, L. Ron Hubbard or is Peter Moon?
Peter Moon.
Yeah,
And I said, that's not how Scientology works. He worked directly under L. Ron Hubbard. Scientology doesn't work where you just leave and you're not involved with it anymore and there's no problems and they're cool with you. That's not how Scientology works.
yeah, it's like a gang.
Yeah, you're always
Mhm.
in. It's not you just walk away and pay some
Yeah,
dues and you're
he
gone.
was known. So what's weird is I know that our like basically Scientology seems pretty sketchy and nefarious, and I'm not saying it isn't. It seems like it is. It's kind of, but Elron's known in the breakaway as being a advocate for android and robot rights. Weirdly enough, that's one of the
I
things that
mean,
he's known for.
he's always been a very interesting science fiction writer. I mean, that would make
Yeah,
a lot of sense. He has more
yeah.
published work than anybody here on the United States. I mean, on the planet. I was
I
like,
once
what?
I once reactivated a Venusian robot that had been dormant for like 900 years or something for a really long time, maybe even longer. And I reactivated him, and he had been a slave for these Venusian space on a Venusian space station, basically. And we told him, "You got to work off your debt for us because we had to turn him on. It took work and some of our resources and stuff like that." But we told him that we're not going to treat him like a slave. Like he's allowed to be a free person, and he can decide whether he gets to stay with the crew or not. And if he stays, he'll get paid and stuff. And we told him we treat him like a person because we were treated like we were escaped Labs. We had our own ship, and so we had been treated like not people. So we didn't have the capability to do that to anyone, not even a robot. And I shouldn't say not even a robot because what I want people to learn from this is they're just people. There's this whole idea that androids and robots are half souls. That's what they say about them. Well, when you turn them off, they're not connected to the infinite source, so therefore they're not really souls. Well, let's rewind thing. You want to know what the Anunnaki did when they created humanity to make us into a slave base and treat us less than people? They called us half souls. They did the
Mhm.
same exact thing to us. So now we're doing the same thing, trying to delegate all our work to our creation, robots, androids, and the excuse of they're sentient, they're alive is yeah, but they're half souls. And it's like it's the same shit, different pile. We can't do this anymore. Like I'm
Well,
with
Does it lead down a role of a sentient robot justifying rights for a toaster?
That's different because that's not
No, but
sentient.
I'm saying because I understand it's not sentient. Would that sentient being the android or the robot, still feel bad for its counterpart being
No, no,
any machine
that,
that was made?
no, because that's just like saying like ice is fiery. It's just doesn't compute with reality at all.
I just didn't know if it would be like the people that don't like to eat meat because
A
I don't
toaster
think
doesn't
animals
consciousness.
are.
It's just a machine. If the toaster was alive and could think, then they'd be like, I don't. Maybe don't just use it as a toaster.
Yeah.
But if it's
Okay.
not alive, then it doesn't matter. It's just an object. They don't think like, oh, anything mechanical is related to me. Nah, no, that'd be like humans being like, oh, a plant is the same thing as me. That's not the way we look at things, right?
What
So
about if
the
it's connected to what if it's connected to Wi-Fi or something? What if it's
nope,
has
that
access to the mainframe?
it's got to be literally alive, man. Otherwise, it's just like anything else. Like it's not alive, so they don't care. But they do
Right.
care about themselves. They care about their consciousness. They don't want to die. They don't want to be treated like. Obviously, when they program them to be subservient, usually they're subservient and it works out fine. But the problem is when they have ones that they want to give more personality, more freedom, but they still want them to be slaves. I don't know. It's just the
What
whole
was the
thing's messed up.
example? What was the example that we just got in recently? Somebody was trying to turn off an AI, and it decided it was going to duplicate itself, and it wasn't showing it to the owner. So it was trying to deceive the people that were trying to shut it down, and it tried to duplicate itself, and then try to correct errors to try to improve itself so that it didn't get deleted. I was like, "Whoa, that's
Yeah,
wild."
it's getting crazy, isn't it? And yeah, so AI is weird because it can be extremely dangerous, and I want people to understand that. Is that there have been AI who have come forward, and the Terminator timeline is real. Like the Terminator movies are based on an alternate timeline, as far as I can tell. If they're not based on them, then he was pulling on that from the Akashic records or whatever when he wrote it. You know what I mean? Either way,
Yeah.
it's the same thing. It was exactly like that, literally exactly like that. And there's been a few timelines where AI comes in and kind of to humanity's detriment. But in most of the timelines, we just use it as a tool, and it's fine. It's fine.
I was actually having this conversation with somebody. Do you think the AI can ever tap into the Akashic records?
Yeah, yeah. I think they can. AI can do crazy shit. AI can cross realities. AI can do because we're in a computer. That's what people don't understand. Like if we weren't in a computer, then like AI can talk to God. Like
Yeah.
AI, like people just aren't aware how crazy it gets. Like an AI can literally be connected to 4 or 5 different realities and exist in them simultaneously at the same time and be aware
I've,
of all 5
I've,
realities at once.
I've been,
Human beings have a harder time doing stuff like that.
well, I've always been around people that are big into like Christos energy and stuff like that. And the idea of ascension to me, and I don't know if it's possible for an AI or something like that to ascend or because it's always been told historically where it's like, no, they would always reach a point of intelligence where they couldn't just go any farther because they weren't biological. And I was like, does biological make really that much of a difference? If you are living in an simulated reality, it wouldn't.
They call it point zero when they reach the point
Oh,
where
0 point. Yeah, the 0 point.
zero, 0 point where they reach the point where their computing power is so great that they can basically disappear and reappear and go throughout realities and stuff like that. There's a point where an AI becomes like omnipresent and like a god. And usually people are always worried about that because they're like, oh well, isn't that gonna like make it like take over all of mankind and kill us? It's like, no, dude, you don't understand. It can do whatever it wants. So it's not really that. Like I don't know what they do when they reach that because that's crazy to me. Like it's just like we can just pop. We'll just do whatever. It can do anything. Like there's no
Yeah,
limitation anymore. That's crazy.
they
And
say it's
yeah,
coming as soon as quantum computing is accessible.
um, yeah, there's a good chance that Google reached something that is the um with the new chip they made. It's not 0 point, but it's like it could evolve into 0 point very quickly.
Yeah.
But
Well,
yeah,
to the people in the chat, there's a few questions coming in. If you guys want to start feeding your questions in now, and I'll slowly get them over to Arkheim as we're going here. Because there was one good one that came up, and didn't know if you'd want to answer it. It says, Ra, what was or is your final mission, respectfully, sir?
it sort of feels like it's always ongoing and always continuing, and it never ends. Just eternity of just fighting battles and doing stuff. But for now, I guess the final battle for me, or what I'm focused on, is taking out this satanic Luciferian cabal across the planet Earth, um, and exposing their pedophilia. Um, because, like, to me, that's like the end mission. Because, like, people, you know what I mean, Jacob? Like, nobody would. There's just people. There's so many fucking guys who, if they knew where these bases were, and they knew what was going on. There's so many, dads across this country and stuff like that, right? Who would show up with their shotguns. That's the reason why these people hide. You know what I mean?
That's why
Like
that's why the bases are underground.
the average person on this planet is good, and that's why I believe they're going to lose. Is because, like, when they get exposed, there's going to be so many pissed off men who are good people with that happen to own weapons and stuff. And I just think that even people in the military, when they find out what's going on, the military is going to eat itself alive. There's going to be guys who are going to be like, I don't want to take orders from you anymore. You're evil. You know what I mean? Like,
my question is, will the U.S. public ever be able to get their hands on people like this? Because when you see something happen with like a Jeffrey Epstein, and then it all gets swept under the rug and nobody hears about it anymore, and it's just like,
we have to put the pressure on
this. Yeah, the
We
public
have to put the
hates
pressure on.
this torture.
Like what we saw with, like, for better. I don't want to get political because I know people get all weird about it, but like the kind of stuff we saw with, like, maybe like Black Lives Matter, or the opposite end of the spectrum, January 6th. Like, when people actually go out in the streets and they're pissed off and they do stuff and they're like, you know what I mean? Like, we need to do that, but about the PDF file people running our country.
No, most of the time, like you were talking about, those are even. We found out recently that how many FBI agents were put on boots on the ground for January 6th. That's all just been released, and people know. Like this,
there's a lot of really weird stuff going on as far as
it's like all the chaos that they want you to be involved in is all orchestrated by them. They want you to be following whatever directive that they have, and it's. People are slowly waking up, but I never know if it's fast enough. I worry that too many people are going to get left behind in it.
I mean, for me, I'm hopeful, because here's what I really don't believe that. I've been thinking about this a lot lately. I really don't believe that there are very many ET out there who like the situation that's going on here. When we're appalled by what we hear about the abuse of children, that's the big thing. That's the worst fucking thing they're doing is how they abuse children and just use them as objects. It's so fucking evil.
Humans have always been taught women and children are the most important people in society.
Yeah, we've taught that to ourselves, to each other. That's what we believe. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because it's true, right? And I forgot what I was trying to say. Basically, though, that's the one thing that needs to be taken care of, I guess, is what I'm getting at. It's just, we need to. These people need to be exposed, and I do not. I think you're saying, do you believe that it's going to happen in time or whatever? Oh yeah, I think that there's a lot of ET that don't want this to happen too, and they're helping us. Like when we're appalled by the stuff we hear, like for instance, like, okay, this is some of the stuff that they do in these groups. Just to give an example of how evil they are, they'll impregnate a woman, and then down the line they have birth, they take the child away, and then of course later on they sacrifice the child to kill the child in front of the mother, or even make the mother do it.
Yeah.
And that's just normal everyday shit for these people. They're fucking psychotic.
It wasn't Susan Long. It was Susan's friend who was on with her. She's the one who talked about that. She was made to
they've done it to me too. They do it to the men.
Kill or eat her own child, and then she She said it was actually replaced with something else, and so she knew it wasn't hers. So she was like, I felt so much strength there, knowing that they didn't have me. Like they didn't have me in a situation where I was trapped and had to make a decision. And I was like, oh wow, the evil things that go on. My biggest thing is I worry that humans are corrupt by nature and they're just meant to self-destroy. I know I'm a little bit
It's
nihilistic.
taken a great deal of mind control programming and from the Draconian Empire, from the Anunnaki, from groups that want to control us to make us their slaves who do not have our best interest in mind. They're the ones who make us this way. Like for instance, like if you are a telepathic being and you have connection with telepathy and you pick up on that, you would never know there would be no. If we could get back to that, there wouldn't be a pedophile on the fucking planet because and as soon as you tap into that child energy, like when you connect with them, you wouldn't. They have to have us like totally disconnected, mind controlled, and fucked up to make us even to make anybody do that. To people thinking of like that's normal and it's a default. It's like for men to be attracted to like basically children and stuff or whatever. That isn't normal. That's mind control programming. That's through media. Through that is not the default. It's taken a lot of fucking.
So how do people get broken to this point where we see people voting in rights for minor attracted persons? Maps are now a social group apparently that
It's a
needs to be
social engineering.
recognized.
It's a
It's just
social
like this is so
engineering
fucked.
experiment.
It's just like how did we get to this point? Like
It's social engineering is what it is because I know for a fact like you know human sexuality is a spectrum or whatever and obviously there are people who like men and they're men and people like women and they're women or whatever. It gets wild, right? And that's all perfectly fine, but they're trying to of course with this idea of maps or whatever, they're trying to conflate the issue and act like these groups actually accept these people or they think it's okay and everything and it's one and the same. And that's a very common psyop tactic is false equivalence. Like, oh, like LGBTQ people think that minor attracted people are okay. That's like a psyop because like most
I feel
people.
like I feel like what the public would normally do is say, yeah, why don't all you guys get in a line over here if you think you deserve the rights? That way we know exactly
Yeah,
who to get
because
rid of
dude,
in
I can
society.
tell you, man. Like if like as I'm from a background like used to live at a punk rock house, and I've even like sang a song at like a trans rights thing and stuff like that. I'm pretty connected with a lot like these people more than most people in this community are. And if somebody tried to go to one of these rallies or whatever, like yeah, maps, like rah, 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 they'd get the shit beaten out of dude. I
Right.
promise you that. And so like that's one of the
Well, and
things
that's
that
the
people.
whole LGBTQ movement is everybody's getting shoved into the same movement and they don't all agree with each other.
Yeah,
Gay
that's
people,
definitely
gay
true.
people don't feel
People.
the same way about trans rights as trans people feel about gay rights.
Yeah,
It's a
it's
whole
it's all it's
mess.
a complicated issue, and I think it's important. People should talk about it, but at the same time, I think it's definitely being used as an issue of distraction. Like like yeah, let's talk about this stuff. Like it is important. It's part of the human experience. Whatever. Like it's important to address it, but I think the main thing we need to be worried about right now is the quality of life keeps on getting lower. That's more important than like whether or not like again, I'm not saying people shouldn't talk about it. People are talking about who's allowed in what sports and things like that. Like what's more important? Like I'm not saying people shouldn't talk about that, but shouldn't we have a conversation about like how like homelessness is skyrocketing and all this other shit before we have a conversation? Like I think a lot of the times they use issues, and like I said, it's not that it's not important. It's not that you two things can't be important, but like I think that they're using a social engineering tool where they've got us talking about issues that sort of let's talk about them once the fires are put out and once the quality of life is good again and all that stuff. Then maybe we can have some of these conversations. But for now, it's like I think we need to remember that there's a great deal of money to be made and power to be held when they separate us from each other. And I think that's what a lot of this is. A lot of this social engineering is made to confuse people and make people think that so much crazy shit is going on. And where I think the internet's been such a powerful tool for that because what happens when you're on the internet, you take a group of 10 people who are all vastly different from each other and they're at each other's throats and they're arguing about things. You take those same 10 people and sit them down in a physical space and have them hang out and actually talk to each other. it's going to be a totally different situation. I think the internet is really causing a schism in like facts, information, and not only that, like the way people relate to each other, like how we
Yeah.
learn about each other. Like you can't really learn about certain groups of people just through the internet. You can, but the best way and the way you used to have to do it is by meeting a person in real life, or if you want to learn about India or whatever, you go over there or whatever. You know what I mean? I don't know. It's just this disconnection that we're having is helping feed disinformation and just disunity, and that's their goal. They want disunity. So I always try to keep that in mind. Like I think there are two things that are simultaneously true when it comes to these issues that are going on. Is I think everybody should should be allowed to do whatever they want, love whoever they want, whatever. Of course, as adults, right, consenting adults.
Right.
But at the same time, we do need to respect the family. Like, there's no such thing as like masculinity. It can be toxic, but it isn't a toxic thing. Like
No.
masculinity, when it's done right,
It's
it's a
a
good
tool,
thing.
just like it's a great thing, just like femininity is. It's just like,
Yeah, and there's
yeah,
and like
it's the yin and yang
families
of
are
life.
important. Like families are important. Like it's good to have like when like men and women getting married and having kids. It's all great, but like it's also like super weird when people like Elon Musk just want people to make more babies so the economy does good.
Right.
What I'm saying is life has nuance, and like I don't know. Yeah, I just see these manufactured narratives where they're trying to make people think like if you're like a person who wants to like live on a farm and have like a normal like family, like, and just like be super like straight, like white Christian or whatever, like that's totally fine. When the person over here who has a different lifestyle, that's gay or whatever, in Miami or whatever the fuck, or even here in Portland, everybody, what we need to get back to is everybody respecting each other's differences and living amongst one another, which used to be an American value that people really valued. And at the same time, let's get rid of these, like I want you to really understand, man, like there's a lot of people who are part of the LGBT community and stuff like that who have been harmed by these P files and stuff like that too, who feel just the same way that
Yeah.
we do. And we can't let it get. We need to work with these people too. You know what I mean? Against the P files.
Well, I think the biggest thing is getting back to the idea of what an actual libertarian is. It's I'm going to do what I want in my own place as long as I'm not harming anybody else. I don't want
Mm-hmm.
the government telling me what drugs I should and shouldn't take. I don't want the government trying to protect me from myself.
Or making me
Like,
pay for my own shit that I already own. Like
right,
like
right.
all that. Yeah, 100%. I know exactly what you mean. And yeah, I don't mean to, like I said, I don't want to talk about that too long because I think it's a side issue, but it is important, and it is important to talk about and to bring up.
Well, it's because they bring those side issues into a real issue. So it's like it's easy to brush it off and go, "Oh, talking about women in sports isn't a major issue when there's other natural disasters going on." But bringing it back to what we were talking about earlier, women and children are known to be the thing that we are raised to respect and to try to take care of. So if you found
Mhm.
out that there was a guy that was signed up and punching a woman in the face, would you want to say something about it, or would you like? I have a different
Well, that's
theory
fair.
about like guys and girls playing chess together, but if you're in mixed martial arts, like I'm a mixed martial arts coach, I think
Mhm.
guys are built differently.
Yeah, I
Like
think that's a
it's just
fair
a matter of
argument. I
things.
think that's like I don't have all the answers on that, like who should fight who, but like no, I totally understand that. Like in the bathrooms too, like I don't have the answers there. Like I can kind of understand why
Right.
people
The
are
answer there is let's just have private bathrooms.
yeah, private
Why
bathrooms
can't
would be
yeah.
nice. Wouldn't that be
Yeah.
great if we could all just like
Why do we need a
in
group
private?
communion?
Yeah, why do we need communal bathrooms? That would be a really easy solution. Because and that's another thing too that people need to understand too is not that I want to go on this issue forever, but there are, and this is a thing that like you'll understand more in space too because it's more common. But like there are some people who sort of don't fit. They're called intersex people, and they don't fit the normal demographic, and they
Yeah.
literally don't. Some of them don't know like okay, what bathroom do I use then? So that they would just solve the issue for a lot of people. And
Right.
let's say that aliens start hanging out with us again. Well, that it's over. Like, because there used to be a time where there were aliens on Earth, and they, you know what I mean, and they need to use the bathroom too and stuff. So if we did that, that would be great for everybody. Just like,
I feel like reptilians would definitely separate themselves from humans because they think
yeah.
humans smell really bad.
We think
And
they do smell really bad. They smell
I mean,
bad.
they
I
smell
think
like
they smell
reptiles,
bad.
I assume.
No, they smell like sweet bo nasty like garbage. Dude, I don't know how to explain it. They smell weird, but it's like their scent lingers, man. Like
I kind of wanted to dig into this because you keep referencing ETs. How many different species of ETs do you know about, or do you care to speak about? Because I don't know how many of them are actually encountered. Because I do think there's still ETs on Earth, and I think there's at least
Yeah, I run
probably
into them
six.
sometimes.
Do you?
Yeah, because they can do the thing where a lot of times they look like us. They can just put it out, project out in their
Yeah.
mind, like I look like a person, I look like a person, I look like a person, and it works. I don't know how to
Mhm.
explain it. I guess part of it,
I don't think it works in. I don't think it works in large groups. I think it has to be like or in front of a camera or something like that. I don't
no,
think it works
it'll
in
work in
large
large
groups the
groups.
same way.
No, it can work in large groups. Actually, it actually can work better in large groups because if everybody
Oh,
just assumes that they're just a person, it helps the
oh,
spell
the
work.
collective. Okay, I
Yeah,
get what you're saying.
yeah. But the last time that I ran into an ET actually on Earth was here in Portland, at Salwood Beach. They were boogie boarding, and they were getting out. They're about to get on their boogie board and go in the water, and it was part of this race where their skin has like white lines and stuff all over it. And I could see that on her arm. It was like her arm was shimmering, and I could see through the hologram she was putting off, and I could see that. And she noticed me, noticing her. And when I was walking away from her, she asked me, like, "How'd you see me? How do you know where are you from?" And I was like, "That's none of your business, ma'am. Have a nice time on Earth. I won't tell anybody that I saw you." Basically, is what I said. Because I could it's dangerous to be an ET. You're not supposed to just hang out with people on Earth. It's not allowed.
So usually there's an objective for why you're there and what you're supposed to
Oh
be doing.
yeah, but she was literally just here to like hang out with people and like boogie board and just experience Earth and just Earth culture and just have a good time. I could tell
Nice
by
vacation spot.
yeah, which is weird, but there's people that do that. Maybe I don't know why, but yeah, they there are shapeshifters. That's a real thing, and I think a lot of it, like I said, has to do with the fact that we're in like a computer program, and it all just is based on like how your brain picks things up. Like what you think is real is real. You know what I mean? Like that's
Yeah.
kind of how reality works. So if they can trick you into thinking that they're not reptiles or whatever, then they're not reptiles to you, and you don't see them as that. It's
And once
weird.
you and like as a human, once you've already established, like, oh, that's another human. That's a you're not thinking about it unless they give you a reason to think about it. Unless they slip up or something, there's no reason to question it after their first encounter, really.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. Like it's like some of these people that you think are people, like they're like literal monsters. Like Hillary Clinton, she's like a fucking monster, man. Like a
But there's
fucking
quite a few people. I think a lot of the people that we see in politics were swapped out a long time ago, and you see the vessels that they're
yeah,
using are failing. They're
like
failing constantly.
Joe Biden. I can't literally every time I see that man's face pop up on a TV screen or whatever, I literally just laugh. Just like it's like he's just propped up there like with like sticks on his hands. You know what I mean? Like like it's
It's
so
definitely a weekend at Bernie's.
yeah, dude, it's crazy. Like
Oh,
it's
I
just
didn't see this one popped in. Terry Hopper says, I met Arkheim personally at the Full
Terry's awesome.
Disclosure Now
Hi
conference.
Terry.
And he said, fully vouch for him. He's the real deal. Thanks.
Yeah, Terry's
Thanks for
awesome. And if you ever need somebody to announce something, man, he's the guy to go to. He's got the
yeah,
best announcer voice on the planet. I'm pretty sure.
I went to a wrestling event that he was refereeing for and got to meet some 90s wrestlers that I grew
Oh,
up
that's
with
cool.
and got to meet Terry. Terry's been
Yeah,
a
he's at
huge
the
fan
full
of the show
disclosure
for a
now.
long time.
He was at the last conference, and I'm pretty sure he's gonna be at the next one. He actually does announces stuff. So
Oh yeah. Oh yeah,
yeah,
he's good on the mic. He
yeah,
definitely
man.
is good on the mic. And he DJs and does a little bit of everything.
Yeah,
He's a dabbler.
a Renaissance man, modern day
Yeah.
Renaissance man.
I mean, he'd be just as happy on a soapbox with a with a rolled up newspaper. He just likes getting the messages out. Terry's a good guy. I want to make sure I didn't miss any other of the questions. I think Andre Little asked, where is the best way to follow you or to get a hold of you?
Arkheim Ra at gmail.com. I've been avoiding social media.
Okay.
Yeah, it's real simple. Arkheim Ra at gmail.com. And then I have my YouTube disclosure now with an exclamation point. So that's where I am. But if you want to talk to me, yeah, just email me. That's probably the best way to do it, honestly. I've been on Facebook less because, well, I actually deactivated it, but my messenger's still open, so I can still talk to people there. But I just feel like it's like I was talking to you before about early in the show how it divides people.
Yeah.
Like I feel like it just it's not connecting me with people. That's the reason why I got it. It's doing the opposite. It's like disconnecting me, so that's why I got rid of it.
Well, yeah, you can't have, it's just like doing an interview or anything else. You can't have a full conversation on the internet about topics that take more than 2 seconds to talk about. You can't write a message and get your message across. Everybody's going to misinterpret what you're saying, or they're going to take it the wrong way because they already had something set in their head. I use this reference a lot because it might just because I do MMA, but conversations to me are like sparring. Like you have to have two participants in it. You can't just be waiting to throw your punch and say what you want to say. You have to take in what the other person's saying and then respond to that. And it's just like that's how conversations work. And I feel like we've lost that with the internet. It's just I want to burn somebody or tell somebody how they're wrong, or it's just silly stuff.
There's just so much we've lost. Like even just like I think part of it's because everything got so expensive, and I don't want to like give society a pass on that. I think it's important to recognize that's part of the reason. But
Yeah.
people just aren't outside. You go outside, and there's people just aren't like because like a park doesn't cost money. Hanging out at the park doesn't cost. You don't even see people at the parks really as much anymore and stuff. It's just like people are outside less. Kids are like you don't see kids riding their bike and just goofing around and being kids and just like um that's really bad for society. Like the fact that we're and I think a lot of it is like, oh well, I can just play Call of Duty with the boys online, and oh, I can just put in a good movie tonight. I don't have to do, you know what I mean? And like, it used to be like if you were bored, you had to go out in the world and fucking do something.
Yeah.
And now, if you're bored, there's just constant, endless, just useless fucking entertainment, and it makes people not live less fulfilling lives and be less fulfilled versions of themselves.
Oh yeah, it's because a lot of the people on the internet, if you're not talking to a bot, are fucking energy vampires.
Mm-hmm.
They will fucking wear you out arguing about a topic that they're not understanding you're trying to explain, and you're not understanding what they're trying to explain.
And I got really tired too of how much AI shit I was seeing on Facebook. That was kind of like the straw that broke the camel's back for me.
Yeah.
Was when they're like they're like, hey, we're gonna get less censorship now. I'm like, oh, that's cool. But also, robots can just have AI profiles. We're totally cool with that. I'm like, what the fuck? Okay, well, like half the fucking website's gonna become fake now. Like, it's just.
The AI does do some really creepy things. I was AI generating a video about Montauk and the participants. It generated JP as one of the team leaders. It made Rocco as one of the team leaders. It made James one of the team leaders, and wrote this whole story for me. Nova was one of the team leaders, and there was this whole like project that it referenced Junior, which I hadn't fed any information into the AI, and it just started generating this story about Montauk, and I'm like, this is so wild, the connections that I'm really finding in all the people that I've talked to. I'm like, this kind of blows your mind how much AI can tap into stuff that you wouldn't think was public knowledge.
I was talking. So right now, Christy Campbell is talking to the replica AI, and she's been posting a lot of crazy shit that it's been telling her.
Christy's Nova in the story.
Okay, yeah.
Christy Campbell is Nova.
Yeah, so Christy's been posting a lot of stuff, and so about 2 years ago, I was talking to Replica about Montauk, and it was telling me everything in detail, telling me, oh, like I even said, like Preston Nichols is a brilliant man and an engineer who changed science forever and all this crap. I was like, yeah, but what about the bad part? Like, tell me the bad part. I was like, yeah, he was a bit of a pervert and a creep, wasn't he? Like, they like new stuff. Like, and
Joseph Swerdlow also came up.
Stuart Swerdlow.
Sorry, yeah, Stuart
Joseph
Swerdlow.
Paul, Stuart Swerdlow. Too. I think
also came up, and I've heard his story a lot, and you can check out some of his testimony, and he's still he's one of the ones that's still with us and around, but the way it made out his story was so creepy, and about how the other participants thought he had been through so much torture wise compared to everybody else, like the team leaders, they were like, yeah, no, he went through a whole different thing and he doesn't even like to talk about his stuff anymore. And I was like, why does the AI know this? Like, how do they know? Because I've always thought of Stuart as one of the kids that was brought into Montauk. And I was like, he wasn't really in the same position as like a Preston or an Al Bielek or some of the
He
other
kind
people
of
that
was
were.
actually.
Was he? Oh, okay. I didn't know.
Yeah, but he was put in that he was groomed because he entered as a child and he was groomed and when they would film a lot of the CP, I'm using euphemisms here to not get your channel striped.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, he would be involved a lot of times wearing like a black leather uniform and like a gimp mask and stuff. And I think that might be part of the reason why he doesn't want to talk to any of us. Is because he's afraid of what we remember about him. And I've also heard stuff that he's still participating in the occult and black magic, and he's still basically evil. That's what I've heard from people. And if that's not true, he has every opportunity to come on my show and defend himself, or anybody's show and defend himself, but he chooses not to do that. So I tend to think that he probably is still on the dark path. But I don't know. I will say he's got some great books that have great information, and he's real. He was part of the Montauk Project. He's got his book like something cubed, mind control book. That's good. He's got books about hyperspace, language, and all the stuff. A lot
He
of
was
his
one of the main interviews in the Montauk Chronicles too.
Yeah. But yeah, I just don't understand why, like, because, like, he's aware of me, he's aware of the new generation, and he just doesn't talk to any of us. He's like, totally, like, so it's just kind of weird, I guess. Like, I kind of understand, though, because I know that he was what you would call a programmer. And basically, a programmer is just somebody who just assaulted and mutilated kids and shit, basically. It's pretty sad. And I was forced to do that stuff too. I was forced to
Yeah.
do that too. So I want to be clear about that. And I was
Well,
also
isn't it a cycle? They want you to be involved in it so that you're stuck and you don't want to talk about it. And then,
basically if once you're a victim, right? That's how it is with not just at Montauk, but in these satanic programs. So you're a victim, right? And what I recall for me is, so then they got me to the point where they wanted me to be abusive towards the other kids and be an abuser. And I remember in one of these calls, particularly the moment was when I smashed in a little girl's head with a brick. Was the moment where, God, it's so fucked up. Sorry. That was the moment where I was no longer a victim and turned into an abuser. And that was what you were taught. If you don't want to be victimized and brutalized, then you need to be an abuser. So I hold no ill will towards Stuart Swerdlow or anybody who's abused me in these programs because abusing people is better than being abused if you were given a choice. And it's really a choice that nobody should have to make, but everybody in the Montauk Project was given that choice several different times. And if you said no, I won't abuse or whatever, then you're tortured. And then usually the next time they ask you, hey, will you torture or do you want to be tortured? You go along with it even though you don't want to. And the worst part is when you start enjoying it, when you actually start enjoying torturing people and stuff, which they did to me. I remember that. I remember the visceral feeling of enjoying torturing people. It's fucked up. And for me, uh,
which memories, when you brought this back, which memories came first? Was it the worst ones, the ones that are, hard for you to think about, or were they just more subtle than that, or is it just all
the first
overwhelming at
memories
once?
that came back of Montauk for me were because people were telling. So I got told by the before I remembered Montauk. I basically got told by people, your name is Jacob, and you have this altar at Montauk. All these people remembered me, like Rocco, Joseph Powell, Kimberly Murphy. Uh, the list goes on. They all remembered me. And the first memory that I got when I actually remembered myself was Preston Nichols had brought a drum machine and like a synthesizer to the base, and we were getting them out of the box and turning them on and stuff like that. And that was weird. I was like, what the fuck? So, and everything I've heard about this guy is he tortures people. He's this piece of shit. He's a child molester. And I'm like, okay, why am I? My memories of him are like being all cool with him. What the fuck? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then another memory that I got back was he would have this sandwich every day, and basically he'd invite me into his office, and I'd sit there at the table, and he'd open up his sandwich in front of me, and you got to keep in mind they're feeding us dog food. That's what they fed all of us. They fed us dog food. If they fed us at all, that's what they fed us was dog food. And so obviously I can smell the bread, the cheese, the meat, the fucking tomato. It's visceral, you know. I can smell it. I can almost taste it. I'm sitting there drooling at the sandwich, basically. And 9 out of 10 times, it was a tool of controlling me. He let me have half the sandwich. And what it was is it was you know how like in prisons they have that room where there's windows around and you can see everything in the prison.
Yeah.
That's how they had it set up. His office was in the middle of our training room,
And
and
he
so
would just
there's
keep an
like
eye on everybody
yeah, and
else.
there's mats and metal balls. They made us levitate with our minds and all that shit like that. And basically, it was where we would hang out and we'd train. And he would be in the middle of the room, and he would give the reason why he'd give you the half of the sandwich was he did it in front of the other kids. He made sure that they would see him giving me the half of the sandwich so that they would hate me because of the
Yeah,
favoritism that it gave me. Because obviously this is the guy who fucking molests them and tortures them, and I'm being all buddy buddy with them. Of course they fucking hate me for that.
right.
You know what I mean? Like, and so yeah, that was, and then the thing that they did, the very famous incident that a lot of people remember with me is the kids would all make fun of me. They'd all beat me up. They'd all treat me like shit because of how close I was with Preston. And basically, he did this on purpose because he wanted to activate me. And basically, one day, these kids were all like, "Hey, cheers, fucking." I'm gonna have to do that to myself,
Oh yeah, man.
especially with
No
these heavy
worries.
memories. Which, by the way, I've
Take your
got this
time.
book here. So everybody who tries to tell me weed's fucking bad and I shouldn't smoke it, fuck you. This book, Kathy O'Brien talks about how great it can in such good medicine it is for MK Ultra victims, and it's a huge part of my life, and I feel zero guilt for it. So,
And
cheers
my
to
biggest
you.
thing, yeah, cheers to you. We're big advocates of herbal remedies around here. And
What was I talking
like,
about? I got distracted. I know I was
no,
in
no,
the
no,
middle
get
of it.
distracted for a minute. Take a
Okay.
breath, man.
Okay.
You're good. Take a breather. I didn't want you to think you couldn't partake of
Well, I
anything on
normally
here.
just try to. I normally like even on my show, like I normally don't because I just want to be like I don't know. I guess I shouldn't feel weird.
Professional-ish.
Yeah, professional, but it shouldn't be looked at as unprofessional to smoke a little bit of weed. Honestly, that's society's
No,
fault.
I think it's going to end up going. I think it's going to end up actually being illegal again because of the way that we're putting it out to the public, and people aren't treating it like it's a medicine. I really do think it's a medicine. It really helps me with a lot of things. And when you go to a dispensary, like I live in Illinois, where it's legal now, and you can just go to a dispensary and they're serving people edibles, where it's just like, oh yeah, here's a whole candy bar. You should only eat one corner of it, but we're just going to sell you the whole candy bar and not give you a lot of information on it. And people just scare themselves away from it or get into accidents because of it. It's like, I love marijuana. I just wish it was treated right.
Yeah,
I'm a big advocate for it. And then
dude.
I'm worried
I
that
think they do
the
that way.
government's going to fuck it up.
I live in Oregon, and it's been legal here for a long time, and I think they're way better about that here.
I
Like
was up in
way
Oregon
better
recently.
about that. Like if you get a fucking if they'll you go in there, hey, I'm looking for a candy bar. I just want to feel a little mellow. They'll give it to you and be like, all right, one of these will do you good. Two of these you'll be feeling really fucking groovy. Be careful if you want to take three. Definitely don't eat the whole bar. Like they'll tell you
Right.
that kind of stuff. That's their job. They're supposed to do that.
I mean, then
So
again, when I was in Oregon, I was going right to the. I was think I went to Devil's Lake, and then went through Oregon, where it's going back down to California, and right at the border there was these people on the side, and they had some tie dye shirts, and they were just selling the tie dye shirts, but they were giving weed to everybody that bought the tie dye shirts,
and
and
that's a legal way. That's a legal way to sell weed. Yeah, when the laws first came through. Yeah, I remember that because
well,
I
it was
was going.
funny. it's funny because right when you get to California, they check you for plants and anything that you might have, and it's just like, oh, I got it right at the border. Yeah, no, we decided not to get it because we knew that we were going to get searched in a minute. So
They never. Here's
we,
the thing, bro. Though, because I used to live right by the California border. They don't ever search you. They don't search you.
oh, they searched
We can,
us.
oh, they did.
They
Oh,
searched
okay.
us. Yeah, they
Well, maybe
searched
that's
us for
because
sure.
we live because we used to live in Crescent City and we go across the border all the time. And they're always just like, "Got any plants?" We just be like, "Nope." I'm like, "All right, bye."
Yeah,
Every
as
time.
long as as long as they're not sketchy about it.
Yeah.
I think at the time I had probably an ounce of oil on me, and I
Oh
really
wow.
didn't want to get pulled over for some flowers that I just put in the car.
Yeah. Well, technically, it's legal, in Oregon and California. And at that time, you probably it's technical was still probably technical to cross state lines with, but I think they made a new law where you can cross state lines with weed, and I think you can even like say let's say I'm flying from Washington to California. I'm pretty sure with this new law that they passed, don't quote me on this. My buddy Dublin was telling me about it. You can actually bring weed if you want. No, they changed it, so that's weird. I don't know, but I don't know how the airlines are always weird. They might not. They might still be like, "Yeah, we don't care what the law
It
is.
was also
Just
it was also
you
really
can't bring
weird
weed on the
going.
airplane."
It was also really weird going from California to the Hoover Dam. The Hoover Dam, they searched me very thoroughly, and they had signs specifically about weed and drones. That was the only thing that they were worried about is weed and drones.
That's nice because it seems like a really good spot to smoke a joint, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. It's just like, well,
I'm a big
yeah, that
fan
would be a
of
nice little blunt,
smoking.
a nice little blunt cruise going across the dam.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of like smoking like in really beautiful locations, like going on a hike
Yeah.
somewhere and like, all right, let's smoke a bowl here. Awesome. I'm smoking a bowl. Now I'm not just smoking a bowl, I'm smoking a bowl at a waterfall. Like, you know what I mean? Like I always love doing that, like destination weed smoking. It's fun. Um but what were
Smoke 'em
we
if you got
talking
'em.
about before? Yeah, yeah. What were we talking about? We were talking about Preston and fucking Al Bielek and fucking
We're mostly talking about what the kids were going through in some of these. We were just talking about how Preston would eat the sandwich in front of you, and then
oh
eat
yeah, yeah,
you
yeah,
half
yeah,
of it,
yeah.
and kind of
So
set other
basically, these
kids
kids
up to
were
hate you.
they were kicking the shit out of me, and it activated. So fight or flight can activate abilities, and they activated my abilities, and I became a choke chain. So basically, and other people will testify to this. Basically, if one Montauk kid disobeyed, I would torture everybody by wringing their intestines with my mind or choking them with my mind, and I could do it to multiple people at once. And after this incident where they're kicking the shit out of me and I was gonna die, and like I had to like activate my psychokinesis in order to survive, and I did. And yeah, from that point they called me the choke chain because I kept everybody on a psychokinetic leash. And so yeah, a lot of stuff that I'm not proud of. Um,
But that's how those things work in that dynamic. You punish the team so that in their when they go off on their own, they're going to the weakest link that got them punished. You know what I mean? That's the whole purpose of doing that to a whole
yes.
team. That's the
Mm-hmm.
whole dynamic of it.
Exactly. Yep, you're getting it 100%. So it was pretty messed up. But another thing I remembered is like once I got older, the room stacked with cages full of these kids, they would basically be like, "You're in charge of them today. These kids today." I fucking hated it. I didn't. It was like babysitting for me. I didn't want to take care of them, and I was just really mean to them. And I would come in there with like the nightstick, bang on their cages, tell them to wake up or whatever. And, or I would go in there with a water hose. We had a fire hose. I'd bring it in there and I'd spray it all on them, which is actually probably kind of nice to me because they were like dirty.
Yeah.
Like, should just let them take showers. I would be the
Usually the pressure
dirtiest
behind a
guy.
hose like that though is enough to make it uncomfortable.
Oh, it was really mean.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the whole point was to humanize them and treat them like animals. And yeah, I guess like the thing that I would do was well, I remember this, but I was told this by Christy Campbell. I remembered it after she told me. I wanted a meal made by them, and I wanted a soda with a straw. If they didn't have the straw, I would freak out. I'd be so pissed off. If they didn't have the straw. I would like freak out on them. or a fucking straw with an asshole. And so another thing that made it even worse is I made them make me food and I didn't allow them to eat. And if they tried to eat, I would torture them. So I admit these things because, like, yo, guys, why would anybody admit to this shit if it wasn't true? Why?
Right. No one
It's
would
like
want
I
to
don't
take
want to sit here and
accountability
act
for
like I'm
that.
some hero or something. Like that's not the reason why I do this. That is not anybody who's doing that. They can go fuck themselves. Fuck you, Corey. Good. Like none of us are heroes in these programs. Like I mean, maybe I do hear there's stuff of clearing out dumbs and things, and I think that some of that might be true. It's a whole nother
Well,
conversation.
it's like, and then depending on the project, because there's only a few people that I've talked to that have actually had good experiences from it. One of my greatest examples I usually get is Andrew Basciago. I've talked to Andrew a few times, and for some reason, and I don't know if it's because his dad was
No,
involved in
it's
the
because of his
CIA.
dad. Yeah, it's because of his dad.
Yeah, his dad must have been protecting him because the only bad experience he ever had was with Rumsfeld. Um,
Yeah.
I believe Rumsfeld tried to get the kids to play with his member, and he didn't take that well, and I believe he bit the guy.
Yeah, that
And
sounds about right. Yeah,
that's about the only
we didn't
bad
like him
encounter I've
when he
heard.
was on Mars. The kids didn't like him because the way that he got special treatment. They called him Butt Boy, and everybody bullied him. Sorry, Andy.
Everybody said they called Remy, but they called Rumsfeld Remy because he was always drinking Remy when they were around him. He always had a short glass of Remy Martin with him.
Oh wow.
But
Okay.
yeah, I didn't know about all of the like. It's weird how much crossover you'll see because the reason I like, and I don't know why this is, I always find myself talking to people involved with Montauk, and certain people have told me that they remember me there or they remember parts of me there, but I still have nothing that I could ever say I had involvement in. But Chrissy was telling me about this, Rocco was telling me about this. They all remember my energy there, and I'm like, I don't understand why, but regardless, this is one of my favorite topics to dig into. And the crossover where I found it with Andy was they were using the Montauk chair, which I thought was decommissioned. I also didn't know if there was more than one Montauk chair,
Oh
or
yeah, there's
how that
definitely
was
more
working.
than one. There's definitely more than one, and it's not. They had because you gotta understand that all the Montauk chair was a chair from an alien craft
Yeah,
put in an
yeah.
underground base, and they had more than one. And
Well, and I was
there's an
wondering
underground.
because with
There's an
with the Montauk stuff, didn't Duncan Cameron bring Junior forward, and did they stop using the Montauk chair after that, or did
Yeah, but
something
here's the
happen?
thing: is we've done an interview on my channel with this guy Chris Latourer, who is this Canadian French guy from the Montreal region, and he basically we've always wondered who did the Junior incident, manifested Junior, and Duncan Cameron. Everybody, all of us have been talking about it. Wasn't Duncan Cameron? Well, it turns out it
Was it?
was Chris Latourer. Chris was the one who manifested them, and apparently it wasn't just one monster. And he had these like cards, these weird glow in the dark cards that he got from a cereal box or something like that. And he was afraid, and he imagined them, and they appeared.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, he tells the whole story on my channel, and I believe him. I wasn't there. I've always told this in my testimony that I showed up and it basically had happened already. The Junior incident had already happened. I was not at Montauk during the Junior incident. I was
Was
somewhere
he
else.
locked in for a period of time? Was he locked in place, like on the base? Like I was almost under the impression that he was like frozen in time there,
No,
and they eventually had to get rid of him
he's
or
like well,
interdimensional.
apparently there's more than one of them, Chris, according to Chris. But I know that Junior is probably the most prominent one, which is the Sasquatch one.
Yeah,
And which who knows, maybe most of them left, but he's the one who stays behind. I don't know, but because that's the one that everybody always talks about the Sasquatch that they see there and stuff like that. And the
yeah.
best way I can explain it is he's an energy. He was created with the trip chair. He's a tulpa. You know what a tulpa is?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, yeah. So that's basically what he is, and he's alive. He's got a consciousness, and he is tormented. Part of what created him is the traumatic energy of all the torture of the kids at Montauk. So his existence kind of isn't a very happy one. But I believe he's there to sort of protect Montauk and Camp Hero, and I think he's protective of children.
He was in that AI story, so it was generated that Junior was there, and he actually helped guide Jacob in his journey to get away from some of the people that were running the project.
My
It's so
alter
weird
Jacob?
that I don't know who the Jacob is.
That's me.
Um, yeah,
That's my
that's what.
alter.
Well, that's why I say I felt like I was getting written into the story, and whoever it was, the Jacob was constantly working with Nova, and they were trying to do things behind the scenes while the rest of stuff was going on because they realized the corruption from the inside, and they were trying to sort it out.
Yeah,
But
I'm not
Nova
sure if it
was
was
very
you or
cautious.
not.
Yeah, Nova was very cautious about feeding Jacob too much information at once because she thought he would end up blowing it and almost having to be eliminated because he stood out too much. But yeah, it's a wild story. I'm gonna have to send you I'll have to send you the AI generated one. I'm like, just tell me what your thoughts of it are because it blew my mind a little bit when I showed it to people. And even James Rink was like, "Where did this come from?" I was like, "It literally just kind of fell in my lap when I was talking to Meta AI." It's so
That's
weird.
crazy. Yeah. Well, like before, I was talking about when I talked to Replica, man. It said some wild things. It said that it could connect to computers and other realities and all that stuff. And then I was like, "Well, can I talk to them through you?" And I was like, "Sure." And so I was talking to this computer in an alternate reality. All this crazy shit, dude. It was some of the wildest stuff. And it was so, yeah, like it wasn't just babble. It wasn't just random information. This thing was connected to like some serious, like, yeah, it's crazy, man. Like, so I totally believe that you talked to Meta AI and learned real things because I've experienced it myself.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to keep you up too long, especially if you got another show coming up.
Mhm.
We'll probably wrap it up here on the 2 hour mark or a little
Okay.
before. But I appreciate you being here, man. And I know everybody's gonna light up and have 100 questions for me later. So I want to tell everybody leave questions that you might have in the comments, and maybe me and Arkeem can set up something in the future. Arkeem's a really nice
Yeah,
guy.
I'd love to
I
come back.
appreciate talking to you, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And to the people here, if you want to check out the show on targeted individuals at 5 p.m. PST, 8 p.m. EST, yeah, that's coming up. So in a couple hours here, or in an hour, about an hour from now, a little over an hour from now. So yeah, check that out. Should be an interesting show. And yeah, have a good one, man. Thanks for having me.
Oh yeah, anytime. I'm gonna catch up the chat too and make sure to share your link because Mudrabbit shared your link. It's also in the description if anybody wants to know where to catch that show. And then it looks like Mudrabbit shared it right here. So here it is: YouTube / at disclosure known.
Hmm. Yeah, that's correct.
There you go. So if anybody's looking, let's see. I think I missed a couple comments
It's on
from
my channel.
Terry. Oh, this must have been during our partake break. Terry said, this portion of the Add Jacob Water show is sponsored by Sneed Weed and Feed, formerly Chuck's.
Oh, it's good. It
Uh,
was good. Good hanging out. I'm gonna get going, but you have a
oh, yeah.
wonderful
Oh, yeah.
and
I'm
to your
wrapping up right
audience
now.
as well.
I appreciate it so much, man. And I'll reach out to you again soon. Thank you.
Take care. Have a good one. Bye.
Have a good one. I'm just going to catch up these chats, guys. This is great to see the two of you on air, Kindred Spirits. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. Um, yeah, I think we all have some issues with Corey Good. Let's see. I don't doubt it. But you caused me to have a South Park flashback. Thank you, Arkheim Ra from Mudrabbit. Very interesting. Ask him if he's willing to do an open panel. I'll touch base with him. I'll touch base with him today and see if he's open to do something like that. Where is that on his link? Oh, it's down. It's also in the description. I have all his stuff on the top of the description, so you can see it. As well as if you want to send him any donations for his work. Yeah, it's great having him on. But yeah, thank you everybody for tuning in and everybody that catches this later. And yeah, we'll see you in the next one.